welcome to this daily Bible study of the book of Ezekiel, a study written by Pastor Lancelot Knight of the former King's Chapel, and we finished 49 chapters. We're now on chapter 40 of the book of Ezekiel. So if you haven't seen the previous chapters, you may want to go back and catch up, because now we're getting ready to enter into the millennial kingdom. And this is the exciting part. We get to see what is going to occur during that millennial kingdom. And Lance Knight paints a really nice picture of that kingdom. And I hope you enjoy. So let's get started. Do you remember in the closing verses of Ezekiel chapter 37, just before we saw the final battle of Hamon-Gog in chapters 38 and 39, that Yahweh promised the millennial sanctuary? Here it is, Ezekiel 37, verse 26. Moreover, I will make a covenant of peace with them. It shall be an everlasting covenant with them, and I will place them and multiply them, and I will set my sanctuary in the midst of them forevermore. Not only that, he promised to return and be with his people. Verse 27, my tabernacle shall also be with them, yea, I will be their Yahweh, and they shall be my people. And everyone shall know that the Eternal One of Israel is Yahweh. Verse 28, and the heathen shall know that I, Yahweh, do sanctify Israel, when my sanctuary shall be in the midst of them forevermore. We have now completed the first 39 chapters of Ezekiel, which gave us in graphic detail, through the use of historical events, e.g. the captivity of Judah, model making, e.g. Ezekiel's ground display of the siege of Jerusalem, play acting, e.g. lying on his side 390 days, demonstrations, e.g. making dung cakes, and simple analogies, e.g. whores and harlots. The events of this final generation, the generation that would understand the first vision in chapter 1, that highly polished spectrum, bronze-colored circular flying vehicle. It is the same final generation that Messiah spoke of in Matthew 24 and Mark 13, the final generation of the fig tree, which began on May 15, 1948. Yes, there will be baby boomers who will see the return of Yahshua Messiah. Just as the book of Ezekiel begins with visions, it also ends with visions, all of which are visions that the sons and daughters of Yahweh's servants in the last days would come, understand. Acts 2:17. We are about to see Ezekiel carried in vision to the land of Israel and shown that glorious sanctuary of the millennium. It is worth remembering that eventually, in the third earth age, i.e. throughout eternity, there will be no temple, for Yahweh Almighty and the Lamb are the temple, even as Messiah is that temple. Now, if you have understanding. I'm going to stop here and just make a comment. He says that Messiah is the temple now, but Yahweh Almighty and the Lamb are the temple during the millennium. So I just wanted to point that out. Revelation 21, verse 22. And I saw no temple therein, for Yahweh Almighty and the Lamb are the temple of it. After the lake of fire, when all that is sin and all that offends has been consumed away, and there will be no more abominations in the holy city of Yahweh. Here it is, Revelation 21, verse 27. And there shall in no wise enter into it anything that defileth, neither whatsoever worketh abomination or maketh a lie, but they which are written in the Lamb's book of life. As we begin these millennial chapters of Ezekiel, it is important to know that the first 5 verses of chapter 40 set the stage for the last 9. Ezekiel 40, verse 1. In the 25th year of our captivity, in the beginning of the year, in the 10th day of the month, in the 14th year after that, the city was smitten. In the selfsame day, the hand of Yahweh was upon me and brought me thither. The hand of Yahweh came upon Ezekiel to show him this vision during the captivity, but after the final siege of Jerusalem. Verse 2. In the visions of Yahweh brought he me into the land of Israel and set me upon a very high mountain, by which was as the frame of a city on the south. This is a vision that we are about to read from the vantage point of the very high mountain, which is where Yahweh resides. Consider that we are going to see the kingdom of Yahweh during the millennium from the top down. Verse 3. And he brought me thither, and behold, there was a man whose appearance was like the appearance of brass, with a line of flax in his hand and a measuring reed, and he stood in the gate. Ezekiel is now zoomed in to the temple, and behold, got your eyes open? He was met by a celestial being, an angel, i.e., son of Yahweh, in his spiritual body, who appears to Ezekiel as if he was made out of polished brass. If you are a student of the prophets, then you may recall that the prophet Daniel was also visited by Vision Man, whose appearance was also like unto polished brass. Daniel 10, verse 5. Then I lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, a certain man clothed in linen, whose loins were girded with fine gold of Uphaz. Verse 6, his body was also like the beryl, and his face was the appearance of lightning, and his eyes as lamps of fire, and his arms and his feet like in color to polished brass, and the voice of his words like the voice of a multitude. Verse 7, and Daniel alone saw the vision, for the men that were with me saw not the vision, but a great quaking fell upon them, so that they fled to hide themselves. Only Daniel, the servant of Yahweh, to whom it was given, was able to see the vision. The men that were with him could not see it, so neither could they understand it. So too there will be those with you who do not have eyes to see and ears to hear, that will not see the vision of Ezekiel's chapters 40 through 48. For the visions are indeed spiritual, as we now continue to document. However, before we move on, did you notice that the man of brass appeared with 2 measuring tools, a line of flax, linen, and a measuring reed, kind of like a tape measure for longer measurements and a yardstick for shorter ones? Our Father has a unique way of revealing his truth to us, even as we have seen the line and the reed used elsewhere when he wanted to size things up for us. The measuring line, Zechariah 2, verses 1 and 2. I lifted up mine eyes again and looked, and behold, a man with a measuring line in his hand. Then said I, Whither goest thou? And he said unto me, To measure Jerusalem, to see what is the breadth thereof, and what is the length thereof. The reed, Revelation 21:15. And he that talked with me had a golden reed to measure the city and the gates thereof and the wall thereof. Do you suppose that the angel Ezekiel just met is going to measure the city, the gates, the rooms, and the wall, so that we just know what size and how big everything is? Ezekiel 40, verse 4. And the man said unto me, Son of man, behold with thine eyes, and hear with thine ears, and set thine heart upon all that I shall show thee. Ezekiel, use your spiritual eyes to see and your spiritual ears to hear, and understand with your spiritual mind to discern what I'm about to show you. If you miss this verse, the rest of the book of Ezekiel will be little more than a description of a temple building and a city. 1 Corinthians 2:14. But the natural man receiveth not the things of the Spirit of Yahweh, for they are foolishness unto him, neither can he know them, because they are spiritually discerned. Verse 4 continued. For to the intent that I might show them unto thee art thou brought hither. Declare all that thou seest to the house of Israel. For to the intent, for that purpose of spiritual understanding art thou brought hither to see these things, and make that which you understand part of your teaching and declaration to your people. Now notice the very first thing Ezekiel sees. Behold, a wall round about the temple. Verse 5, and behold, a wall on the outside of the house round about. There will be a wall around the temple, that true temple being Messiah, all during the millennium. We know that the glory of Yahweh is returning to the temple, even Yeshua Messiah, but the spiritually dead cannot partake of that tree of life until after the 1,000 years is finished. Thus there will be a wall between them and Messiah. See Ezekiel 43:8. Now, or wait until we get there. In other words, those who were not part of the first resurrection cannot approach Messiah and receive eternal life until the time of the second resurrection, the great white throne judgment. The very fact alone that a temple will once again be set up should tell us that, shouldn't it? Remember, after the lake of fire and the city of New Jerusalem comes down out of heaven, there will be no more temple therein. Revelation 21:22. Quote, and I saw no temple therein, for Yahweh Almighty and the Lamb are the temple of it. Right now, during this dispensation of grace, when many do not even believe that Yahweh exists, all who will can approach Messiah and enter the Holy of Holies, but during the millennium that will not be the case. For everyone shall know that he is Yahweh, for they shall see his glory, but they must learn and want of their own free will to follow him and his ways, and not Satan and his ways. They will have no choice but to learn and follow his ways during the millennium. That's where we will see the Zadok and the saints of the first resurrection come in. After that, Satan will be released for a short season when they can prove on their own whether they still want to or not. Then the judgment. Let's complete verse 5. Verse 5 continued. And in the man's hand a measuring reed of 6 cubits long by the cubit and hand breadth. So he measured the breadth of the building 1 reed, and the height 1 reed. To understand this verse and its profound significance, one must know what a cubit is made up of 6 hand breadths. But look, the cubit used here has an added hand breadth, a 7th one. The number 7 in biblical numerics means spiritual perfection. See Appendix 10 in the Companion Bible. Since the reed used here is 1/7 larger than that used in Solomon's temple, this gives the Millennium Temple an added dimension, and that dimension and the measurements thereof are spiritual. Behold, remember we are in Yahweh's day, the Sabbath day, the 7th day, and we are all in our spiritual bodies. Let's recap what we've learned so far from the first 5 verses, which, if you noticed, all contain something spiritual or supernatural to set the stage from the beginning that what we are going to read in the closing millennial chapters of the book of Ezekiel is spiritual, not physical. 1. The hand of Yahweh came upon Ezekiel and took him in visions to Eretz Israel, the land of Israel, and set him upon the north side of the highest mountain where he was looking south. 2. He was taken to the temple where the celestial being was waiting with measuring tools to be his spiritual instructor and size up the temple for his understanding. 3. The angel then told Ezekiel to get his eyes and ears open and discern what is about to be shown, then teach it to the house of Israel. 4. Then the first thing Ezekiel was shown was a wall outside the temple. And 5. Now, with his eyes open, saw that the measuring reed used by the angel was 1/7 larger than usual, and the wall was 1 reed by 1 reed. The next part of the vision Ezekiel is going to be shown is the east gate, which lies at the top of the 7 steps. Ezekiel 40, verse 6. Then came he unto the gate which looketh toward the east, and went up the stairs thereof, and measured the threshold of the gate, which was 1 reed broad, and the other threshold of the gate, which was 1 reed broad. We will reserve our discussion of the significance of this until our next study. Meanwhile, as we go through the measurements of the temple, it would perhaps be helpful if you had an illustration of its layout. If you have a companion Bible, you will find this illustration in Appendix 88. Okay, I'm going to stop here a minute and pull up Appendix 88 and show you what this millennial temple looks like. Okay, folks, there you have it. It's found in Appendix 88 of the Companion Bible. You can see, let me see, I need to adjust it a little bit to show it the whole thing on the screen. You have 88, the Millennial Sanctuary and Oblation of Ezekiel, 40 through 48. Okay. I'll just leave this up for a few minutes or a few seconds. Okay, well, what a privilege it is that our Father allows us to be able to see into the future. Okay, that ends this particular study by Lance Knight. And you can find my other platforms on Telegram, Rumble, YouTube, Odyssey, BitChute, Gab, and also our latest, this link tree to Rain Ministry. And buy me a coffee if you feel motivated to support our ministry. We would greatly appreciate it. And also be sure to give this a thumbs up, like, and subscribe to our channel. In the meantime, next session we'll continue with chapter 40 of Ezekiel.